In today's video, I want to discuss what could be Rose's potential ceiling in the women's flyweight division. She's been at women's flyweight for not even a year. I mean, it's been probably like 10 months since she debuted. She's 2-1 in the division. Her debut fight was against Manon Fiorot, who's like the number 2 girl in the division. I believe she was number 2 when Rose fought her. And I know they gave her Manon as like a ploy to, boost her to a title shot right away, if she's to win her flyweight debut. But in my opinion, giving her Manon was probably a mistake, like on her first flyweight fight coming off a loss. They probably should have started with someone like a Tracy Cortez for her first flyweight fight than Manon Fiorot, because that would have got her in the win column a lot sooner. But here she is. But I mean, it's no secret though that the quality of competition she's facing, obviously isn't the best in the women's flyweight division. And now she's got, a whole tough top 5 ahead of her. After she just took care of Tracy Cortez, she's got a whole top 5 ahead of her, and plus the world champion. So there's nothing but tough fights ahead in the women's flyweight division. Now, we know how far she went in the strawweight division. She became a champion not once, but twice. She holds wins over the best of them, and she's beaten some of the best twice, like Weili twice, Joanna twice. In my opinion, she's one of the greatest strawweights of all time, one of the best champions in strawweight history. But can she repeat that story arc in the women's flyweight division? Well, let's break it down. So ahead of her at number 5, there's Jessica Andrade, who she's 1-1 with, and she beat her by decision in the second fight. She was winning the first fight until she got slammed on her head in the second fight. She was comfortably winning the first 2 rounds until round 3. Jessica started to find her shots and broke Rose's nose and had Rose leaking from the nose and started catching up to her. And, there was a narrative walking away from that fight that if that was a 5-round fight, Jessica would have gone 2-0 over Rose, which may be true, but I don't know if that would mean the same thing for a third fight, even if they were to book a third fight in a 5-rounder. I think all in all, Rose is better than Jessica, always was, always will be, no matter what weight class. So I'm going to say that if they were to book her versus Jessica Andrade next, 3 rounds, 5 rounds, I think Namajunas would settle the score and close out the rivalry with 2 wins over Jessica Andrade. So I think she would beat Jessica again. I just think her striking's too good for Jessica. Her defense is too good. Her takedown defense is very underrated, and Jessica hardly grapples anymore. And every time you put Jessica against a really good striker, she usually does struggle. So I'd say Rose wins that. Now, if they rebook the Macy Barber fight, this is an interesting one, because I do think that if it's a 3-round fight on like a feature fight of a pay-per-view, I think Rose would win that fight by decision, 29-28, very comfortably, because there just wouldn't be enough time for Barber to make something happen. And Rose, I mean, she's good every round, but especially in those early rounds, Rose is like her most difficult to deal with. And I feel like in a 3-rounder, it would go very similar to Grasso versus Barber. Barber wouldn't really be able to get off her best offense until round 3, where she knows she's down on the cards, needs to make something happen, but it would be a little too late. But if it's a 5-rounder, I mean, Rose could still decision her over 5 rounds, but I feel like 5 rounds against Macy would be extremely dangerous, because unlike Cortez, pillow hands Cortez, Macy Barber does have legit power. And when she goes in there to do damage against her opponents. And I could see her eventually landing one of those big shots throughout the fight, and the damage kind of adding up in the late rounds. And Barber could potentially get a late TKO. So 3-rounder, I mean, Rose all the way, but 5-rounder, 50-50. Barber's odds are a lot better. So this is a fight that Rose could lose if they rebook it, especially if it's like a 5-round main event of a fight night. I'd say the UFC's safest bet if they want a guaranteed win for Rose is make it 3 rounds as part of a pay-per-view. But I mean, skill for skill, I think she's better than Macy. I just think it's that dog, that grit in Macy, and just that power and that killer instinct, that violence of Macy that makes her very dangerous for Rose. Now, if it's Erin Blanchfield, I used to think that Blanchfield would beat her because of her size advantage and her grappling advantage. But honestly, after watching her last fight with Manon Fiorot and comparing both their performances, Rose's performance and Erin's performance against Manon, honestly, I don't think Erin would do very well against Rose. I think she would struggle with the length and the distance and the movement of Namajunas. And I don't think that Erin has enough fight IQ to shoot enough takedowns on a consistent basis. I feel like she'd be too content to try and kickbox with Rose like she did against Manon Fiorot, and she'd get pieced up. So I do think that Rose would actually beat Erin Blanchfield by a very comfortable decision. Little to no difficulty. Like, if they make that as the next fight, as like a title eliminator, maybe on the side of Rose, because she's on a run right now in the women's flyweight division. Like, if Rose wins, she's getting a title shot. So I could see the UFC giving this fight to Rose to set her up to fight for the belt, should she win. But I mean, if they were to do a Manon Fiorot rematch, although they'd have no reason to do that because Manon beat her like one fight ago. This doesn't seem like that fight that will be ran back until a title's on the line. But in all honesty, even though, Rose was compromised from having a broken pinky, I still think Manon Fiorot beats Rose. I think Manon is one of the best flyweights in the world. She doesn't get enough credit. A lot of people think she's overrated. I think the opposite. I just think her striking will always be problematic for Rose. Her striking, her length. She's got the physicality advantage, and I just think she could outstrike Rose to a decision again. But I mean, I wouldn't count out Rose. I mean, after seeing how she did in that first fight and how she's doing now, I wouldn't rule out the possibility, but I still think she loses to Manon. Valentina, I also think Valentina would beat her. Just because Valentina just has the size and the physicality, and she has that option of being able to fall back on wrestling if she does struggle on the feet. And I don't think that Rose would have it in her to get a finish if she's down on the cards, like Grasso was, or to like make any big comeback moments in the late rounds like Grasso did in that second fight to get a draw. And I think Val could even outstrike her too. I mean, Val just ain't no Tracy Cortez or Amanda Ribas, so I think Valentina would win if that fight were to happen. Now, the champion, Alexa Grasso. Now, this fight is very interesting because they're both good boxers. I do think that Rose will be one of the best strikers in the flyweight division that Grasso will have ever fought outside of Shevchenko. Rose has the footwork, the distance management to give Alexa Grasso problems. Like I said, she can match the boxing, and she's more well-rounded. She does have the grappling advantage. Rose does have good takedowns and control, and I do think that's one thing that Grasso would have to worry about. However, even though I did say they both have good boxing, I think Alexa's boxing is slightly better than Rose. And I do think early on she would struggle with the length and the striking of Rose, but I feel like as the fight goes on, Alexa Grasso would start to be able to find her shots, find her openings, and start putting hands on Rose. I think this would be a very close, competitive fight. I do think Rose would get a few takedowns here and there, but I do think Grasso could get up, get some of her own takedowns, and I think she would win a majority of the exchanges. And Grasso does have very high fight IQ as well. So I do think she has potential to outsmart Rose and come up with a really good game plan to win that fight. I think she would invest in leg kicks against Rose, which leg kicks are a kind of a weakness in Rose's game, and I think she could use leg kicks to slow her down. I would love to see her invest in that body as well, but yeah, I think Grasso would win this fight by a close decision. So based off everything I just said, I think Rose could go as far as to being a title challenger in the women's flyweight division. World champion, it's not impossible. Like, she can beat Alexa Grasso, or whoever has the belt, whether it's Valentina again or Manon Fiorot. She could beat all three, but those three girls are like her hardest matchups in the division. And those are matchups where she's more likely to not come out the victor, if you will. So I could see her making it to a title shot, in all honesty. But I just don't see her winning the belt. But if she's going to have any chance of becoming a champion, she better get a title shot next, because if you look at the history of Rose and her record, she can never win more than 3 fights in a row. It's literally a canon event. Once she wins 3 fights, she loses the next one. So Rose could win her next non-title fight, but then if she fights for the belt, she's definitely going to lose. I know she doesn't deserve a title shot, coming off a win over Tracy Cortez, but if, she gets put under lucky circumstances to get a title shot, who knows? She might be able to make some magic happen, like she did at 115. But I mean, she does have good potential. But yeah, I just don't see her getting that belt. I think Rose's ceiling in the women's flyweight division is top 3 contender at best. Maybe number 2, maybe even number 1 contender. Maybe, I could see her maybe being like the 2nd, 3rd best in this division, but just not being the best, like she was at one point in time in the strawweight division. But I cannot wait to see what the future holds for Thug Rose Namajunas. If she could become a double champion, if she could be the 2nd fighter in WMMA history after Nunes to win 2 belts in 2 divisions, that would be huge. I would love that for Rose. Just, I wouldn't like that to be against Grasso. But again, it would be amazing to see her accomplish that. And that would just further boost her odds at becoming a Hall of Famer. And that would just further up her legendary status if she can do that. And it's Thug Rose, so I don't doubt it. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you guys think Rose's ceiling is in the women's flyweight division? Do you see her as world champ, or just a top 3 contender, title challenger, but nothing more? Like and subscribe, and peace out.